Yeah, thanks, Mark. It's great to be here. I like this venue. It's like very cozy. Do they serve drinks to the table, like on rollerblades, maybe? Yeah, hello world. It's I studied architecture and now I'm an artist. I kind of made a lot of stuff in between. When I started school in the mid-90s, we were still drawing with ink on paper, like learning this, and at the same time the web came up and it was way more interesting to be in there and to kind of build houses in 3D and play a shooter in there instead of doing like the old stuff. So I've always been in between these sort of two worlds, or coming from architecture, very basic, or no, not basic, but it's very heavy, let's say, but always interested in digital. And so I wondered. I mean, there's these moments in life when you so I made a lot of projects. After the first 2 years, I didn't do any houses anymore, but like movies, 3D animations, like stuff, And then you have these moments when you lose data, right? I mean, it happens. It still happens when your phone gets stolen or computer. Today, everything which is in the cloud we can't get rid of anymore. But at that time, I had these burned CD-ROMs, and they wouldn't work anymore just after 2 years because there was like a bad burner or bad CD-ROMs. So where are all these projects? Where's all the beauty, like the digital stuff I made? And I kind of developed that need to make these things, to build them. And this is like one of my red lines in all of my works, to kind of discuss that relation from what we do on the screen and how does it interact with our real life. And I'm doing this since 10 years almost, and it's like, a lot of things have happened over the past 5 years, 2 years. This year, a lot of things have happened too. And so I'm going to show a whole series of projects, starting with this one. It's about Google Maps and about the location search. So you can search for a location. This is a city in Poland, and there's this map marker in the middle pointing out the city. And it's like this funny interface icon which stays at the same size all the time on the screen, but in relation to the city kind of changes. And at the same time it casts a shadow, the speech bubble casts a shadow, and it becomes part of the city. So I was wondering, like, where are these? Like, or what would it be like to have them in the city? And Google, of course, is kind of owning a lot of our digital life in a sense. But the location is going to be more and more important right now, and so they're not going to put up these, but I'm pretty sure they will put up go into interactive billboards. Like I heard in UK, they're the first interactive billboards now with cameras on top, and they do face recognition, like in Minority Report. So this was in Taiwan, Taipei, in Arles, France, 2 years ago. So I show these always in different locations. It's supposed to be the city center. So when you go to Düsseldorf and you search for Düsseldorf, where is the marker popping up? I haven't checked it, but you might know. And then you can discuss, is this the center of the city? Like, is this Düsseldorf, or should it be like over there in the main square? I recently showed it in Kassel. I had a solo show in the Friedrichsanium in a Kunstverein, and had it there on the Friedrichsplatz. And it's very, in a way, it describes very well how I kind of take situations, objects from digital space and kind of translate them, transform them, and put them back into physical space. And it's a lot about this irritating moment of like, oh yeah, I know this, but wait a second, like it doesn't belong here, like what's going on? And we're very used to use these tools and interfaces every day, and I also claim like our perception of city kind of changes through these filters and information we get here. And the moment you see it in real life, it's like, oh wait, yeah, I know it, but oh yeah. So you get like an idea of what we do, that like this, it's still a split going on. Internet is everywhere at the same time, and we use it all day. We heard a lot about this here. But at the same time, when you walk, like when I go to the bakery on the corner, like what has changed since the last 20 years? Like, and not much. Like, so we're gonna see more examples like this. Dust is like about a computer game, It's called CounterStrike. Most of you probably have know it, or I hope some of you have played it. It's a first-person shooter which was very famous in the 10 years ago in the beginning, end of 99, 2000, 2001. What interests me here is that you, besides, of course, you need to shoot in there and you fight, two groups fight each other. You need to know the space super well to survive in the game, like to play the game actually. So compared to movies, we can talk about the same movies and about the same scenes and atmosphere and what's going on and the plot. But here, like the plot of the game is the space, I would claim. Like, so it's really, and maybe, I mean, I've been in Düsseldorf once before, but it's a long time ago, and still, like, you come to places you should know, but you still get lost in the airport. I still look in the supermarket for the same stuff. I keep forgetting, or they keep changing it. But when I go back in here, or any other 3D game you played a lot, you go back and you will recognize every corner and every like door and box, and you know exactly what's happening behind that opening because it's like critical to survive and to master the game. And we are trained as humans to remember space, right? It's like an evolutionary skill we have. And so you can wonder, like, how many people have been, I don't know, in Düsseldorf, how many people have been in certain cities and plazas of the, like in the Times Square or in Berlin or in seeing the Kaaba and Mecca. It's like places where many people go like every year. And how many people have been in this specific map? Like a lot of people have been in here. It's really, it's like I claim this is cultural heritage in a sense. Like, so, and you can also, so you find these pictures on the internet, right? They reenact things you could do in the game which don't really make sense in this way for a SEALs team. And also, this is the map from above. It's like one of the famous maps from this specific game. And then you find these pictures where they would just rebuild it in the sand on the beach, just because they know it by heart, not because they had a printout with them. And so I started. I've done a bunch of projects with this map. One of the big goals is for me now, like, or an idea, let's say, big idea, to build this as a one-to-one scale, life-size sculpture / museum at the same time, like to make this a pilgrim place to go to. It would be really big and really like expensive too. Here's a 3D print. It's just this small, but you get an idea. It's also funny, the space itself, like it's made for, it's only designed for the action, not for architecture, like how we think or how architects would create a space. So you have all these funny outside spaces which don't make any sense. So for example here, they float in air because you will never be able to see behind the wall. You're standing in the place and it looks like there's buildings in the back, or there's like, all these typical elements, but from the outside it looks really weird. So I made some first tests on concrete, and I also most recently had a show in, this was also from the Kassel show, where we built scale 1-to-1 one of these gate situations from cardboard. So to enter the show, you needed to pass one of these gates, doors, which are very crucial moments in the game. And most recently, also in Canada, this was in August, we built, like, there was a prison yard in the city of Sherbrooke near Montreal, and they had a public show, open space show, and I had all these crates from the game in this closed prison yard, and this closed, like, it's like a prison from the 18th century, and it kind of fitted very well the context of like these closed environments in computer games. And when you go closer, you will also notice, it's still the pixels on there, but the more you move away, it looks like wood, right? It blends in, and again, it's like this weird moment where you think, like, wait a second, what's going on here? And then there's a whole bunch of other game projects I've been doing over the years. So I played a lot of games myself, obviously, and I think the gamers were the first to understand how digital like the digital space is kind of like really bleeding into the world, and it's when you're on these games your whole day or like spend a lot of time on there, it kind of really affects you the way you see the world too. So now it's another branch of projects coming. Are You Human is about captcha codes. And yeah, we all know this, like you want to sign up. This is this Yahoo sign up page from like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I think it probably looks different now, but there's this little picture at the bottom, and there's this moment where you need to prove that you're human and not a script from some spammer. And for us, it's like just this annoying moment, and sometimes you need a lot of them or more than one to kind of, this one, it's kind of easy to guess, but there are a lot of different versions, and of course it kept like developing over the years. I love these specific captcha codes a lot because they have these extra elements in there that Yahoo doesn't have this anymore. I mean, most recently Google has like all kinds of stuff in there to make you work for them, right? To recognize house numbers from Street View or like scan books and stuff. The first thing I did, I introduced them as my business card. So do we need that sometime in the future? Maybe like, oh yeah, here's my business card. Can you read this for me? And then I blew them up, and I made objects from them and put them in the city next to Graffiti. Kind of this, because Graffiti and tags is like, it's a very similar thing in a sense that they only certain people can read them. It's like access to a certain area, to a neighborhood in the city. When you're not part of the gang, you're not supposed to be here, etc. And there's like similarity going on, and here you kind of, you have to look for them quite a while, but it's down here. So this was in Vienna in 2009. And I also put them in galleries in Eternal, Apple, Aluminum, because I mean you have to think about like the captcha code, it comes like for this very moment and then it disappears. It will never appear the same again. It's funny because everything on the internet we can copy sort of, and like the industries are fighting against that we are able to copy things, but nobody's interested in captcha codes. So when it's generated, it's like generated on the fly, and it'll disappear afterwards, and it will never appear as such the same again. So I kind of saved them in metal. But I also, it's important to like captcha means completely automated Turing test to tell humans and computers apart. And it's interesting that the Turing test used to be the moment where they would sit, like have someone in front of the computer, and I would need to decide if I chat with a person or with another chat program. And today it's like the computer deciding on us, right? And well, yeah, we all know this moment, like, oh, I can't read this code, like, I need another one. Or it's like these weird moments, and I think it says a lot about our relation, and I mean, it continues, right? I mean, then you can talk about high frequency trading, and nobody really knows anymore what all these algorithms like kind of doing there. It's like this whole idea how our relation to machines and to software. I also in the Castle show I had a big one made from metal, from steel, rusting there, and it's disappearing but very slowly. Google Portraits is a series about portraits today. What's a contemporary portrait? I mean, portraits used to be paintings and pictures, but today when I don't know someone, I put the name into Google, and then boom, you have 10 first results of this person. And this is like, I claim it's like the portrait of today, the contemporary portrait, because on one hand, I mean, it says something about the person, at the same time it doesn't say anything. Then you have name collusions where like people have the same names, or it's like funny mix up there. But in fact, this is the first thing we learn about each other. And what I did here, I took the search string from the URL bar, and I coded it into a this is a semicode, but later also into QR codes. And I make these hand-drawn QR codes, which when you decode them will point you to a search for this person on Google. So it's like this in-between mediator of, and it's like handmade. The software doesn't really care if it's handmade or not, and you can go pretty wild with the most later ones look like this. So it still can read this code, and then this one would point you to Kate Middleton. She had a portrait made last year, and there was like a big fuss about that it was ugly, etc. And I made this version. So obviously this hand drawing like is static and stays the same all the time, but whenever you go there and go to Google again, the results change all the time. So our portrait on Google sort of is, and of course there's also pictures on Google, but I'm more interested in the first 10 results. And with Kate Middleton, it was interesting that I always thought like it's not interesting to do famous people with this, but because it's like the same results always, like Wikipedia, etc. But the news section on top would change like every half day with her, like what she said, what her brother said, etc. So this went on for a while, and yeah, now we come to Deaddrops, which was already spoiled. Today I want to show you how to make your own Deaddrop. Deaddrop is an offline, anonymous, peer-to-peer file-sharing network, and you can be part of it. Yeah, so you already get an idea. Like Deaddrops is just like this idea of taking USB drives and cementing them into walls. It's an open project. I started this 2010 at IBeam in New York City, where I was artist in residence. It started as this very small intervention. I had like this idea, let's do this, it's cool. I put out a tutorial how to make this. It's also very simple. You don't need any skills, so you just buy a flash drive and glue it someplace in the city. It's open, everybody can use it. Now there's a website where you can submit your own Deaddrops. There's a world map, etc. But it really started with these first 5 Deaddrops there, and it's a lot about, I was in love with this picture of there's a brick wall, and you have the data literally cemented into the brick wall. Like it's totally the opposite of the cloud, and I have Facebook in my pocket, and it's like everything is nice and smooth. It's really, you need to go to the place. You don't know what's on there. It might be raining. You're getting dirty jacket. There's a virus on there, maybe even. It's like all these things where suddenly people starting worrying about. But it's also it makes you think about how we use internet today and how kind of super connected everything is. So, and also like you can't be traced, right? There's no IP address. It's open, everybody can use it. Also, people destroy them. I have to say, like they don't last very long. Depends on where you put them. So it became these sort of huge project. A lot of people have been taking part in the past 3 years. We can and now we're showing how to make the first Deaddrop here. So these were the first pictures of the Deaddrops I made in New York City, and there's the website, there's a map, there's over 1,200 Deaddrops been made in the past, 3 years. These are some examples of a workshop I gave a month ago in Spain. So we went out in the city with a group, and people will place their drives there. I also like the fact that you need to take your computer. Your computer need to have like a USB port, right? Your iPad wouldn't work on a cache machine, like in all these different places. It's like 1,276 Deaddrops, and it's almost 77 terabyte. of storage, which is funny too. And of course, I mean, I only access the ones where, like, whenever I'm in a place and I try to find it, but I don't know what's on there. Like, journalists used to call me like, yeah, so what's on there? I mean, there's some examples from the early beginnings, from Paris. And then in the countryside and all kinds of places. It's funny, it's like this global project everybody can take part in, but at the same time you always have like a local story from people from whatever country I've never been to, and you get these images, and often it's very personal. Message in the bottle is a good one. And then people used it, and that's nice when you do these open projects, people use it for all kinds of different other projects kind of built upon, like on top of this. So this was a show made in Lyon where like these graphic design blogs, they had like a show of their contributors, and you needed to go to these places to look at the works. Also, musicians would release music on there. So we have a new album, you can like download it on iTunes, or you come here and download it from the USB Deaddrop. It was in press a lot over the past years. It's interesting that most recently with the whole Snowden story, it became more like, in a sense, relevant again. Like I have press calling like, oh yeah, you ever found like suspicious files on there? Like they kind of really believing it. I mean, obviously, Deaddrops is in German it's toter Briefkasten, and it means like it's the spot where one spy will leave information and the other spy comes later to pick up the information. It's like used to be like the Cold War spy, or I mean, it's even much older than Cold War. But today, of course, all these things happen through internet. I suppose maybe probably still they have like offline like kind of handover stuff, but. It has this adventure to it. It also has a little bit of geocaching, where people go to the woods to find like a certain like geolocation, and then it has like the spy layer to it. For me, it was always this really like turning the building into a file storage and putting data into the city, like into brick and mortar. This is like has to do with my kind of architecture background, I think. So the piece was shown in the MoMA show in 2011, and you also could in the MoMA like come up with your laptop and plug in and leave your files on there. I had this call on our blog, how to get your art in the MoMA, so kind of told everyone like, yeah, come to the MoMA with your laptop and leave some files there, and you can tell everyone you have a piece in the MoMA.
The hand mic.
Yeah, the hand mic is good. Oh, no, we're back, yeah. That was the NSA, maybe. They're trying to listen on me. So this was from the show in Kassel. I'm going to show some pictures from that recent show in October. I made a Deaddrop on this one of the big columns of the museum, which was fun to make. From the opening here. Yeah, there's a bunch of new pieces in there, also stuff you already seen. It's another version of like a self-portrait, like a commented self-portrait search of myself in Google image search, and then you comment out all these things which are wrong, or oh no, they took the wrong picture. I never wanted this picture to be online. It's like the relation we have with them, right? My public key on pretty good privacy, a PGP for email. Kind of hand printed on a canvas, like to make this a picture, like really. I think this, like with this year, I mean, I've been in this like on the border to security or open source like for quite a while, and I also like this year again I go to Chaos Computer Club Congress in winter. But what happened this year is really, I think, is vast with the whole Snowden leak stuff. It'll change a lot from this year on. maybe we will see what we are able to change or what will change, but just the awareness about it is it's very interesting. I think it's a very important year. So the public key, like the email key encryption, in case you don't know, like you always have two keys. Like there's a private key and a public key, and there's some mathematical encryption process where I can send you an email when I have your public key. So if you want to send me an encrypted email, you need this public key, and yeah, you can look at it and write it down maybe. But I also like the fact that you cannot, we can't make any sense of these numbers and letters anymore. It's really like, it's all it's in this invisible process. We have to trust these, I don't know, companies or software machines, and now it's like, I mean, I don't know, the guy who've been doing VPN tunnels at Mercedes for the bosses in the last 20 years, like for them, like a whole world kind of collapsed because apparently all these softwares and security stuff is sort of, it's not safe anymore. I mean, they have backdoors in all these products and hardware. It's horrible. Greetings from the internet is about this moment when you come to a place and you need to, you wanna hook up with the internet with your computer, and you need a password, the Wi-Fi password. So it's funny how I collect these passwords over the past, I don't know, 5 years. Whenever I come to a place, I make a picture, because you always need it a second time, right? Because the other device or for your friend is coming later. And it's funny how it's like, again, this moment where, you go on the internet, but then you have this handwritten thing and you have to make kind of sense of it. So kitten love, of course, that's the password, all lowercase, right? So sometimes you have to guess, like, what did they write wrong, or is this a C or is it an A? Like, you can't tell. And so you have this moment, this human moment in between again. And I make them these postcard series. Forgot Your Password is another password project, also from this year. It's about these big services. LinkedIn lost their database in 2012, I think, like a year ago. Like somebody like hacked into the database, and this happens often. Like I think most recently Vodafone lost all their information from the users, and they always try to like, oh yeah, it's safe. It's like they don't have anything of you, but in fact, so it was interesting here. These eight volumes of passwords from LinkedIn contain 4.7 million clear text passwords. So you can, they're in alphabetic order. You can go to the book and you can look up your password from LinkedIn. And it only has 4.7 million is, when they got hacked, they had about like 80 or 100 million users. So it's like a little fraction only. But this is due to the fact that the hackers who got into the system, like the malicious hackers, they're cracking all the easy passwords. They're encrypted, and they have like some machines to crack all these passwords. And then there's like 5% which are too strong to crack, and they just throw it on the internet, like, you guys crack it. And then there's these forums with people with like high-end machines cracking passwords just for fun. And there's no login information like to the password. It's just the password, and it's supposed to be like the most private thing for you. And here they are, like the big list, like nobody cares. Also, like again, like the captcha codes, it's like this moment is not working anymore. Like there's something wrong here. Like, of course we have two-factor authentication and all these systems today, but it's really the online identity is so important today. I just saw when I came yesterday some tweet, like someone got kicked out of Facebook, like boom, like all your Facebook stuff is gone, like this. It's like losing a life, right? I'm not on Facebook, but on Twitter. Graphic arrays, this is for the designers. You recognize something maybe? So at the very top here, this is 640 by 480. And the largest one is like my desktop right now. It's 2560 by 1600. And it's all the resolutions we've been looking at over the past, many years. Maybe not all of them, like disclaimer, but a lot of them. And it's like you recognize probably one or other laptop you used to have. and they're made in paper. It's just empty paper sheets hanging as a picture from the wall, kind of, yeah, posing that question, like what that window we look at all the time, and it keeps changing. Also, it's funny how the proportion, of course, like today, I love these like 21-inch, 1,280 by 1,024. It's like a square. You look at them, it's like, wow, it's like really like vertical sort of fields already. And yeah, we got used to it very much. And of course, sooner or later, screens will like disappear into laser blending in our eyes. But this is like a homage to the pixels. Also, I do curatorial work. I invented a bunch of ways to show other artworks or other friends, artists' friends' works. Offline art is like a way to show digital art, net art which only exists on screens. And here the idea is you have a room full of routers, and each router has a little USB stick on there. Each router is offline. They're not connected to the internet, and it's only one piece on there. So when you go to your phone and you pull up the Wi-Fi menu, all the Wi-Fi spots are the artist names, and then you select to see a piece, and you go to your browser, and there's only this one page or several pages, but which is the piece. And then you cannot go anywhere else. It's like in the hotel when you're blocked to go somewhere else. And so the piece is in the space. It's not on the internet. It's like not everywhere. It's just locked down on the space and on this specific router. And then you have an opening where everybody's looking at their phone. So rude, right? Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's like people do it. I do it all the time. You saw it in the beginning, right? It's like always like something's happening here. It's, oh, this tweet is much more interesting than the show or whatever you're attending. But he had really kind of, was hardcore, sort of looking at phones. This is Evan Roth, which we will hear later today at, I think it's the last talk tonight. I recommend you to stay to the very end because he's a very good artist and a very good friend. His GIF tableaus he's doing. Olya Lialina. And she also gave an opening talk at that night about net art and about, she's very pioneer in this field from the mid-90s. And these, of course, they also become objects. Like, obviously, it's like I hang this on the wall instead of the painting, right? I mean, it has like this reference to kind of hanging things on the wall in the white cube. Of course, I mean, we don't even know it. It's like sort of ridiculous. Like you can put all pieces on one router. You can also just have Wi-Fi and go to the internet, to the web page. But it's like, it's for the net people, it's kind of like breaking this down to space sort of idea. And this was the same approach show in Kassel in a bigger space. What else? Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about FetLab, and Evan is going to talk about it tonight as well. He's much better at it. I also think Evan is like one of the founding members. Evan and James in 2007 it was founded, and it's all about the intersection of pop culture and open source. And open source was never really sexy, and open source needs to be sexy with pop culture sort of. FetLab has like a book just came out most recently. You find it on the website. And you can download it for free, but you can also buy it on Lulu. I also made a black and white version, a printed one you can download. You can buy for cheap. And I'm going to show this project really quick. How much time we have? We were invited in 2010 to the Transmediale in Berlin, and the FetLab set up like a whole lab there. We were doing all kinds of projects around Google. Fuck Google, right? I mean, you can also, there were prior other fuck this, fuck that projects, but of course, I mean, obviously Google is very, very good in what they're doing, but now, and especially this year, we learned it's not good if one company is holding all this data. And it's really funny, like I have these conversations now all the time, like, oh, you cannot stop NSA, and you cannot do this and that. Of course, it's really difficult, but when you, And I'm like, yeah, I'm not using Google anymore. Like, how can you, like, it's not possible to go on the internet without using Google. Like, it's like, how do you do this? Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, come on, like, I mean, you use a different search engine. You don't use Gmail, like, you don't use Google Docs. It's not that difficult, but it's just like, I don't know what do you think, but it's, I mean, the searches are not as good. Yeah, I know. There's like, and you have to do like these things, like you have to do some extra steps to get to some places, but there's, I don't know, there's OwnCloud, for example, they're based in Stuttgart. It's a software to do file sharing, file syncing between machines. It's like Dropbox, but you install it on your own server. It's very easy. It's like, I'm not a coder, like you just click. And so, I mean, it's like, it's a huge topic. And back in 2010, it was about Google. You can also do this about Facebook and Apple and Amazon, etc. And we were doing all kinds of online add-ons, browser add-ons, little interventions, and we also made this car. Let's check this out. Now we can have some sound again. We built, we rebuilt the Google Street View car, and there's no camera on top there. It's just like all the mock-up. Here we have some sound. So it's just plastic and cardboard. But the moment you put a sticker on your car which says Google, you're in. Like, everybody believes you. And then funny things happen to them. Like, Google is like a weird company. I asked him for the way to Munich. Oh yeah, the whole story with China, that was super big back then. Like, yeah, and it breaks down all the time. They have like technical problems. Like, and this is just Berlin, right? So we had some.
What do you want? Hey! This is Google car. Turn off the camera.
So this was us ourselves, but immediately people would like intervene, and you have all these reactions in the street when you go slow. And we had a tweet out that we claimed that we found the Google car, we following it, we demonstrating against it. So we had this second car following the Google car all the time. And again, a brave citizen. And it's funny, I mean, especially in 2010, like the whole discussion. Oh yeah, this is good too. Especially in 2010, the whole discussion was yeah, it's a great group, and I think Evan is going to talk about it more. And we have a show up in Eindhoven right now till end of January. It's not far. You should go and check it out. It's a really good show. Yeah, and it's interesting how the I think again this is the moment, like how to explain someone what like how they track you with cookies and whatever, add pixels and all these stuff is super hard. But when there's this car in the country and taking pictures of every house, like everybody gets that. It's like immediately like, I mean, have you ever tried to call Google to talk to someone about your search results or something? It's like really like this invisible company. They want to be like your power socket on the wall. But it's like when there's like this car going, it was so obvious. So in Germany, we all know it was like a big buzz about it. And in 2010, even after, I mean, this was in winter and spring. And then there was even before that in 2009, I was sitting in my favorite cafe here in Berlin on the left side, and the real car was passing by, and I ran behind it the whole street, kind of having like, now I say it's like a self-portrait series, wanted to be on these pictures from like the snapshot of the city, and you see all these funny blurred rectangles now. Like, yeah, we all know this. It's like when people kind of chose to be not on Street View, which is, yeah, I still I think it's ridiculous compared to what all the other information they collect, like what we know now. It's like really ridiculous. And I hung these pictures again in the cafe, kind of to loop this back. Some closing projects. This was most recently this was after the first revelations, and this was in June when Obama was visiting Berlin. And yeah, obviously he never wore Google Glass, right? It's a Photoshop, but it's a prism in the front, right, breaking the light. So it's kind of funny wordplay, but also makes you think like what happens when we wear these devices every day. And of course, Google stores all the video for improving the service, right? And then like who has access to all the video? And when you just keep thinking about what comes in technology and how like this whole Big Brother thing is already so much in place, it's like it's ridiculous. So I took these to some of there were like some little small protests, but it's also was fun to like hack into media with these just like one morning, oh, I go to this protest, oh, I make a mask, and then I had some successful tweets too. And Obama was visiting all kinds of places in Berlin with this mask. And yeah, so this is all like the brand new or the very specific this year topic. Also, I made this piece most recently. It's a quote of Ai Weiwei, famous Chinese artist, who's dropping an Han Dynasty urn, like a very super expensive old 5,000-year-old urn, and it's like he's like not moving, and I'm dropping the internet in the same manner. Yeah, because also this is sort of like, for me, it's like personally, I mean, we had a lot of discussion with friends too. It's like there's all kinds of ways to see this, but it's sort of the innocent time is over. Like the way it wasn't invented, like based on trust, and it will help everyone to democratize, etc. Partially, right? We were doubting this a little bit maybe, but now it's like really like, oh yeah, no, it's like the other side, like the dark side, is using this to like a vast extent. Like it's just so scary, and I think it's gonna split up. It's gonna split up in like slow networks, fast networks, like country networks, more filters, more like extra networks, like dark networks. So it's sort of over, yeah. And last but not least, I show this video from the Custard Show. It's like I've been doing like a whole series of analog screens over the years. So it's about pixels. We all know pixels, and pixel is like the most basic element of digital, sort of the visual element. Yeah, we've seen a lot of pixels here. So this is like a big wall which has a headlight casting light on there. And it's in fact just a shadow play. So there's no projector, there's no whatever software involved. It's just 3 layers of paper, and the light in the box will kind of transition to like a homogeneous, light gray color in the front. And the school class was sort of perfect as a demo here. And for me, it's very much like this combination of how when we see pixels, it's always digital, but it's very much how like the expectations we have, also expectations, like the same thing I started with the Google Map marker, like we're very used to see certain things only digital, and the moment you break these rules, like you start thinking about how we kind of bridge in between all day. And funny with the kids is, like, so there was like this guide, like in this educational tour for the kids, school class, and they, so what do you see? Like, what does it remind you? And he was like going for pixels, but they were like, oh, this looks like Minecraft. Because, I mean, my kids play Minecraft too, and Minecraft is like this retro like game, but at the same time like high-end rendering. And yeah, it's blocks, so it's Minecraft. Yeah, I think that's enough. There's a book, came out 2 years ago, and this is my website, and that's it.